decides to fight under the directions of Lord when he says, Karishye Vachanam Tava, I shall act according to your words. So this appears in introduction as well as in chapter 18, 73rd verse. So in the beginning, so basically Arjuna said, My dear Krishna, O infallible one, my illusion is now gone. I have regained my memory by your mercy. I am now firm and free from doubt and prepared to act according to your instructions. So basically the living entity's constitutional position is to be servitor. He has to serve either Maya or Supreme Lord. So if he serves the Lord, he surrenders to him, then he will be out of this bondage. And so Krishna consciousness basically is acting according to Krishna's order. And another aspect of this is that that spiritual master and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are one in the sense that they are one in purpose. They are in total agreement. So when the Supreme Lord says, surrender unto me, and spiritual master says, surrender unto Lord Shri Krishna. So their goal is same. So basically Arjuna, when Arjuna says that complete surrender, he uses this word in the introduction. Prabhupada uses the word in the introduction also, Karishye Vachanam Tava.
Where is it in the introduction? Page?
This
Introduction.
is in page 14.
What? Page what?
14 on the smaller book.
Page 14 in the small book.
Page
14.
Yeah, okay. Page 16 of my book. Yeah, the whole point is that
basically complete surrender and listening to the spiritual master or the Supreme Lord. Just like Arjuna surrenders, so that's the beginning of the spiritual life, when you completely surrender and understand it as is.
yes.
There's no doubt, no confusion, as is.
So in the, if you look at the 12th chapter, verses 6 to 7. It says in the second paragraph. Well, okay, let's read from the first paragraph. Let's see. 12th chapter, verses 6 and 7.
It is explicitly stated here that devotees are very fortunate to be delivered very soon from material existence by the Lord. In pure devotional service, one comes to the realization that God is great. That God is great and the individual soul is subordinate to Him. His duty is to render service to the Lord, and if he does not, then he will render service to Maya.
Okay, so that's the first point we have to understand. Either we serve Krishna or we serve Maya. There's no middle ground. When we're not serving Krishna, we're serving Maya. Secondly, we serve Krishna because we know that He's the greatest personality. And that we're always subordinate to Him. Therefore, our duty is to serve the Lord. If we don't serve the Lord, we serve Maya. Basically, this is the nutshell of the whole philosophy. Okay, next paragraph. Go ahead, you read.
As stated before, the Supreme Lord can be appreciated only by devotional service. Therefore, one should be fully devoted. One should fix his mind fully on Krishna in order to achieve Him. One should work only for Krishna. It does not matter in what kind of work one engages, but that work should be done only for Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing Supreme Personality of Godhead. His life's mission is to please Krishna, and he can sacrifice everything for Krishna's satisfaction. Just as Arjuna did in the battle of Kurukshetra. The process is very simple. One can devote himself in his occupation and engage at the same time in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Such transcendental chanting attracts the devotee to the personality of Godhead.
Okay. So the more we chant, the more we're attracted to Krishna. So this is basically what Karishe Vachanam Tava, this explanation, these first two paragraphs explain what Arjuna means when he says, "Now my Lord, whatever you say, that's what I'm going to do." And when work should be done only for Krishna, Prabhupada says, that is the standard of devotional service. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, in life, we have to decide what is actual success. The concept of success in material life is usually misleading. There's a saying in English, chasing after the will of the wisp. Chasing after the will of the wisp. W-I-L-L-O-V-O-F-W-I-S-P. Will of the wisp. See that? Will of the wisp. It's like chasing after
Wild goose?
Hava Mahal.
Yeah.
Right. Is there a Hava Mahal?
No.
There is?
No.
There is a palace in the sky? You ever see
There
it?
is a palace in
Hawa Mahal in Jaipur.
Huh?
There is a palace in Jaipur. They call Hawa Mahal.
Yeah, but is it in the sky? Yeah. Yeah, so will of the wisp, did you see that?
Yeah, will of the wisp.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Yeah, I'm reading told it. It is also called Friar's Life.
What does it mean?
Someone or something that keeps disappearing or that is impossible to
No.
catch or reach.
Yes, that's the
Anything that deludes or misleads by luring on an elusive thing or person.
Yes, exactly. So, anything other than Krishna's service is like a Hava Mahal or will of the wisp. Something you can chase after, but you can't really achieve it. So that is material success. I mean, people think, oh, I've achieved the highest pinnacle of material success. I have everything I want. But that success will not save you from birth, death, old age, and disease. So what has greater value? How to live a life full of love and affection and understanding one's relationship with Krishna and then helping other people understand that relationship, or being able to accumulate more and more wealth so that when you die you have $5 billion, but you can't even take one penny with you. So just accumulating a lot of wealth is a sinful thing because you're doing it at the expense of others. And the only way to reduce that sin is to use that wealth very quickly to spread Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada said, there's nothing wrong with making $1 million during the day as long as you spend it for Krishna before nightfall. So there's nothing wrong with being able to earn $1 million a day, or like Jeff Bezos and some of these billionaires, you can earn sometimes $5 or $10 billion in one day. as long as you can spend it. So, therefore, I coined a phrase once. One is not praised for what they save, but they are praised for what they gave. So, a person is known for what they give, not for what they hoard. And so that giving nature can only be done when you have faith in Krishna. Because when one is generous in a spiritual way, Krishna blesses the devotee with unlimited wealth, because he knows the devotee will use it all in the service of the Lord. But if we just use it for sense gratification, then it's condemned and it's actually sinful. Okay. So if someone acts like this, only for the service of the Lord, does not engage in materialistic activities, then the Supreme Lord herein promises that without delay he will deliver a pure devotee thus engaged from the ocean of material existence. This is 12th chapter, 6th and 7th verse. This is the third paragraph.
The Supreme Lord herein promises that without delay he will deliver a pure devotee thus engaged from the ocean of material existence. Those who are advanced in yoga practice can willfully transfer the soul to whatever planet they like by the yoga process, and others take the opportunity in various ways. But as far as the devotee is concerned, it is clearly stated here that the Lord himself takes him. The devotee does not need to wait to become very experienced in order to transfer himself to the spiritual sky. In Varaha Purana, the verse appears, Nayami Paramam Sthanam Achir Adi Gatim Vina Garuda Skandam Apo Aropya Yaticham Ani Varatya. The purport of this verse is that devotee does not need to practice Ashtanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by Supreme Lord himself. He clearly states here that he himself becomes the deliverer. A child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once, riding on his bird-carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. Although a man who has fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from the material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. Any intelligent man should always prefer the process of devotional service to all other paths. In the Narayaniya, this is confirmed as follows. Yavai sadhana sampatya purusharth chastuste. You want to read through?
Yeah.
Tava
Yavai sadhana sampatihi purushartha chatushtaye taya vina tadapnoti naro narayanasraya.
The purport of this verse is that one should not engage in the different processes of fruitive activity and cultivate knowledge by their mental speculative process. One who is devoted to the Supreme Personality can attain all the benefits derived from other yogic processes, speculation, rituals, sacrifices, charities, etc. This is the specific benediction of devotional service. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, a devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily. But this destination cannot be approached by any other process of religion. The conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is stated in the 18th chapter. Sarva dharma parityajya mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayami ma sucha. One should give up all the processes of self-realization and simply execute devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life. There is no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of him. Therefore, one should not futilely try to deliver himself in spiritual realization. Let everyone take shelter of Supreme Omnipotent Godhead Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life.
Okay, so this is what it means. Karishya vachanam tava. My dear Lord, whatever you say, that's what I'm going to do. And if someone comes to that conclusion in life, then the Lord becomes a swift deliverer of the devotee from the cycle of birth and death. And one does not have to engage in any other process of religion, tapasya, learning Sanskrit grammar. It's not necessary. Sacrifices, rituals, speculation, charities, etc. And this is specific benediction of Krishna Consciousness, that he simply became a sincere sevak, servant of Krishna. All goals in life will be achieved naturally by rendering service. And therefore he says, a devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily. But this destination cannot be approached by any other process of religion. That's Karishya Vachanam Tava. Okay, so that's good. So now we'll continue in the introduction. So I guess you're page 14, my page 16. In this world, men are not meant for quarreling like cats or dogs. Did you find that?
Yeah.
Someone can read, one of the ladies maybe want to read. Go ahead. You know where that is?
In this world,
Yeah.
men are not meant for quarreling like cats and dogs. Men must be intelligent to realize the importance of human life and refuse to act like ordinary animals. A human life should realize the aim of his life and his direction.
A human being should realize.
Human being should realize the aim of his life and his direction is given in all Vedic literatures and the essence is given in Bhagavad Gita. Vedic literature is meant for human beings, not for animals. Animals can kill other living animals and there is no question of sin on their part. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste, he must be responsible for breaking the laws of nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly explained that there are three kinds of activities according to the different modes of nature. The activities of goodness, of passion and of ignorance. Similarly, there are three kinds of eatables also. Eatables of goodness, passion and ignorance. All of this is clearly described and if we properly utilize the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, then our whole life will become purified and ultimately we will be able to reach the destination which is beyond the material sky. Yat gatva na nivartante tad dhamma paramam mama. That destination is called the Sanatan sky, the eternal, the spiritual sky. In this material world, we find that everything is temporary. It comes into being, stays for some time, produces some byproducts, dwindles and then vanishes. That is the law of the material world. Whether we use as an example, this body or a piece of fruit or anything. But beyond this temporary world, there is another world of which we have information. That world consists of another nature which is Sanatan, eternal. The Jiva is also described as Sanatana, eternal, and the Lord is also described as Sanatana in the 11th chapter. we have an intimate relationship with the Lord, and because we are all qualitatively one, the Sanatana Dharma or sky, the Sanatana Supreme Personality, and the Sanatana living Dharma, living entities, the whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to revive our Sanatana occupation or Sanatana Dharma, which is the eternal occupation of the living entity. We are temporarily engaged in different activities, but all of these activities can be purified when we give up all these temporary activities and take up the activities which are prescribed by the Supreme Lord. This is called our pure life.
So in our morning class to kids, 2 days ago, a question was asked, and that is, if someone likes to play, someone is a devotee, but they like to play cricket, is it wrong to play cricket? So, this was a good question. And someone heard in a class by one visiting devotee that if there's something you like to do, then you can do it. So they asked me what is my opinion. I said, well, I don't have a personal opinion, but I can explain the 2 levels of Dharma. It's called Swadharma. While one is still attached to the material world, that means you like to play cricket, or you like to go to the movies or whatever, then your Swadharma, or your prescribed duty, is to follow as strictly as possible the 4 regulative principles. But whenever we say 4 regulative principles, there's 4 don'ts and 4 do's, so there's actually 8. 4 things you should not do and 4 things you should do every day. No meat eating, fish or eggs, chicken, no gambling and mental speculation, no intoxication, including coffee and tea, and no illicit connections outside of marriage. So, these are the don'ts. And the do's are, one should regularly hear Bhagavad Gita every day, at least morning and evening. One should eat only prasadam, respect prasadam. One should regularly come to the temple and do service. And one should chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day. For initiated devotees, it's minimum 16 rounds. So, and the first level of Swadharma, as long as we're attached to the material world, we have to follow these rules and regulations. Now, if one is, let's say, not a Vaishnava, but a Hindu, then your duties can vary. But again, there are duties every day. Like, for example, some people say, you should do homam morning and evening. Right? You should give dawn, charity. You should go on pilgrimage. You should do Satyanarayana Puja once a month. You should do this thing. You should do that thing. So, do devotees have to do it? No. Because devotees' theme is Karishya Vachanam Tava. Whatever Krishna wants, that's what I'm going to do. So Krishna wants, as we learn in 18th chapter, 69th and 70th verse. We'll read that again. You cannot say you don't know what Krishna wants you to do. Some people say, oh, well, Krishna was there with Arjuna in Kurukshetra, and he told him specifically what he wants him to do, but Krishna's not here today to talk to me and tell me what I should do. But no, Krishna has told us what we should do. He says, for one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. Generally, it is advised that Bhagavad Gita be discussed amongst the devotees only. For those who are not devotees, will understand neither Krishna nor Bhagavad Gita. Those who do not accept Krishna as he is, and Bhagavad Gita as it is, should not try to explain Bhagavad Gita whimsically and become offenders. Bhagavad Gita should be explained to persons who are ready to accept Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is a subject matter for the devotees only, and not for philosophical speculators. Anyone, however, who tries sincerely to present Bhagavad Gita as it is will advance in devotional activities and reach the pure devotional state of life. As a result of such pure devotion, he or she is sure to go back home, back to Godhead. And then the next verse says, "There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear." So if you want to be dear to Krishna, then you should learn Bhagavad Gita and teach it appropriately to others. So no one can say, "I don't know what Krishna wants me to do." Here's the order. Lord Chaitanya also said that Yare deka tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amara agyaya guru hana tara edesh. That you stay in your proper desh, where you feel comfortable. It could be India, it could be America, wherever you feel comfortable. And wherever you are, you should always engage in Krishna Upadesh, teaching others about Krishna. And then you become Guru. So, this is what Krishna wants us to do. So, while we're still attached to the material world, then we should strictly follow the regulative principles and lead a Krishna conscious lifestyle. And when you become expert at doing that, then you come to the second higher level of Dharma called Sanatana Dharma, where you give up everything else and simply preach. So, therefore, in order to come to that level, you don't come to that level right away. And you cannot jump to that level. There is Varnashrama Dharma. There are 4 ashramas and 4 varnas. So, that's for gradual elevation to the level of a pure devotee. So therefore, you have Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyas. If you go through these ashramas, a woman might say, well, wait a minute, women are not supposed to take sannyas. Yes, that's true. But if your husband takes sannyas, then the wife should live like a sannyasi in a holy place or with her children, and live exactly like her husband is living, in a state of gradual and total renunciation. So, therefore, there's lower Swadharma and higher Swadharma. Okay? That's why it says that Krishna consciousness is the means and the end. To achieve the end, one engages in devotional service. And the end is pure devotional service. So you have lower Swadharma, higher Swadharma. And this is explained in the 2nd chapter, verse 66. And we'll look at that. 2nd chapter, verse 66 says, Nasti buddhira yuktasya nacha yuktasya bhavana nacha bhavayatak santira santasya pita sukham. This is a very important verse because it explains a lot of very fundamental points. One who is not connected with the Supreme in Krishna consciousness can have neither transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So this verse explains why there is mental sickness and how to get out of mental sickness. And mental sickness is caused by sustained anxiety, doubt, and fear. And then one becomes mentally sick. And there are a lot of mentally sick people. Up to 50% of the population of the United States take drugs for stress and mental disturbance. up to 50% of the population in this country today are taking some kind of drug. It's not necessarily marijuana. They're much more sophisticated drugs. They're called benzodiazepines. They're very, very sophisticated, very, very addictive. And they have different names, Ritalin, Prozac, and so forth. They're very dangerous drugs because they're highly addictive. Up to 50% of the population in this country is taking them in one way or the other because of stress, anxiety, fear. They have panic. Sometimes people panic. Panic, distress. Okay. So, here's the solution to it. Unless one is in Krishna consciousness, there's no possibility of peace. So it is confirmed in the 5th chapter, 529, that when one understands that Krishna is the only enjoyer of all the good results of sacrifice and penance, that he is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that he is the real friend of all living entities, then only can one have real peace. Therefore, if one is not in Krishna consciousness, there cannot be a final goal for the life, for the mind. Disturbance is due to want of an ultimate goal, and when one is certain that Krishna is the enjoyer, proprietor, and friend of everyone and everything, then one can, with a steady mind, bring about peace. Therefore, one who is engaged without a relationship with Krishna is certainly always in distress and is without peace, however much he may make a show of peace and spiritual advancement in life. Krishna consciousness is a self-manifested peaceful condition which can be achieved only in relationship with Krishna. So if you want shanti, peace of mind, this is the verse which says, Nasti moha smritir labha. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya, which means na asti. When there is not, na asti buddhir ayuktasya, when there is not a connection with Krishna, nacha yuktasya bhavana, then one cannot have transcendental knowledge nor a steady mind. In other words, the mind becomes chanchal, very unsteady. See, in life, in material life, there's no such thing as real love. But there is duty. If people say, well, if I don't love someone, I'm not going to do anything for them. That is a symbol of ignorance. Because there's no such thing as real love in the material world. There's some semblance of it, but not the real thing. Real love is love for Krishna. However, there is something that is higher than real love, that is duty. Real love is defined in Chaitanya Charitamrita as if there is a genuine reason for separation, but no separation takes place, that is real love. If there's a real reason for separation, but no separation takes place, then there is real love. Right? So that's very uncommon because mostly people will, if there's some genuine reason or impelling reason, they will separate. So, let's say there's no real love, but then what is there? Duty. One has a duty. When you make a vow, you're duty bound. So the vow of marriage makes you duty bound, especially if you get married in a temple. You're duty bound to stay together. The husband must protect his wife and his children. The wife must serve the husband and be, a support. And they support each other. They work together. You're duty bound. Now, oftentimes people say, "Oh, our marriage was a love marriage." That is complete nonsense. There's no such thing as a love marriage. There is lust marriage, yes, that's a fact. There's no such thing as a love marriage. And oftentimes people break up from those love marriages. In fact, in America, the divorce rate is close to 50% of all marriages is divorces. 50%. I don't know what the percentage is in India, but I know it's going up. Used to be amongst the Gujarati community of South Africa, there was zero divorce for like 300 years. Right? Now even that has gone up, whereas before it was zero. Right? So something has happened, a change of culture, even in the land of Bharat. So therefore, there's duty. Duty means, just like Krishna is telling Arjuna, wait a minute, you can't say you're not going to fight. It's your duty to fight. You were trained to protect the principles of religion. It doesn't matter if your family is on both sides of the battlefield. You're duty bound to fight. And you're duty bound to fight for me, not for increasing land or wealth, but simply to please me, Krishna says. So, whenever we accept a sacred vow, we are duty bound by it. There's no question, oh, there's no more love now, therefore it should be divorced. No, there's no such question about that. That is nonsense. That's what the demons do. Right? Just like the Muslims, they have this thing, you're allowed to get married for 1 day, or 10 days, or 1 month, or 1 year. And then it's legal in Islam. Well, what is that? That's not marriage. That's just a legal form of nonsense, right? So there's no such thing like that. Did the Lord Ram divorce his wife? No, he never divorced his wife. Okay, there was separation, but there was a reason for that. There's an external reason and an internal reason for it. But there was never any real separation. They always remained loyal to each other. So we see, we should not be tricked. Just like when I was living in Beirut, I had one Muslim friend, and one day he was telling me, he said, "You Christians, you don't know what you're doing." I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, you can only marry one woman. I mean, we can marry 4 women. Sometimes we can marry more than 4 women. Our religion is better than yours." So I looked at him. I said, "Look," I said, "you don't understand anything about religion. You think religion is an excuse for sense gratification. And that's not what religion is all about." Anyway, follow your rules. At least follow your rules. Their rule is that you're only allowed 4 wives. Right? So one day a person asked the question, "Wait a minute. We're only allowed 4 wives. How come Muhammad had more than 8 wives?" They asked him, "How come you have more than 4 wives?" He said, "Okay, I'll tell you tomorrow." They said, "Why tomorrow?" He said, "I have to talk to Allah about this." So the next day he came back. He said, "Now I'm going to tell you why I can have more than 4 wives." They said, "Okay." He said, "You can only have 4 wives because you're not prophet. But when you're a prophet like me, you can have more than 4 wives. Allah told me." Now, this is silly nonsense, you see. But anyway, they take that as being some kind of truth. But Lord Rama established Ekapatni Vrat, that a high-class person will accept only 1 woman, and a high-class woman will only accept 1 man as a husband or wife. And they stick to it, because they make a vow. So all these things mean that we have a connection to Krishna. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya. If you don't have a connection to Krishna, then you cannot achieve transcendental knowledge, nor can you have a steady mind. Now what does that mean, steady mind? That means you can keep vows. That means you can follow the regulative principles. That means that people can wind their watch according to your daily routine. In other words, they know that it's 1 o'clock because you're eating lunch. They know it's 10 o'clock because you're taking rest. They know it's Brahma Muhurta because you woke up and you're chanting your rounds. They know what time it's Arti because you're in the Arti. So that type of steadiness and regularity is a sign of spiritual, let's say, dutiful behavior. One becomes regulated and because of that, they become predictable. When you can predict what a person is going to do, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it, then you develop faith in that person as a genuine person. Because they're predictable. If one day somebody is married to so-and-so, and then next time you see him, he's with a different woman, and he says, oh, that's my ex, or this is my present wife. Yeah, it's complete nonsense. All this stuff is a total violation of the principles of Dharma. You see? But some people think it's normal to have many exes. Therefore, we have to decide in our life, are we going to be a dharmi, a follower of Dharma, or not? So that means, karishya vachanam tava, whatever Krishna you tell me, that's what I'm going to do. So here it says, without a connection to Krishna, one cannot have transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there's no possibility of peace. And how can there be any happiness without peace? So here is well, you could call it a domino effect. Not a domino effect, but you can call it a pattern, a template for mental peace. Right? Establish a connection with Krishna, that's through devotional service, through guru and gurus, through good association. Develop transcendental knowledge. In fact, let's talk about that. How do you develop transcendental knowledge? Let's look at 9th chapter, 2nd verse. 9th chapter, 2nd verse says some amazing things. This is what we're studying in our morning class. It says that 6th paragraph, paragraph 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The last sentence of the 6th paragraph. This advancement in spiritual life does not depend on any kind of previous education or qualification. The method itself is so pure that by simply engaging in it, one becomes pure. So, to advance in Krishna consciousness does not depend on any previous education or any previous qualification, like being born in a Brahmana family or graduating from Harvard, getting triple PhD, one from Harvard, one from Yale, one from Princeton. No, it doesn't depend on that. Simply engaging in the process of Krishna consciousness, that is, following the rules and regulations, chanting, taking prasadam, and so forth, one becomes pure. So that means anybody, even the lowest person, can become the best person if they will follow this lifestyle of Krishna consciousness. Okay? And that's the way you develop knowledge. You don't need any particular academic training. All knowledge will be revealed as we advance in purity. Purity is the force. So a force is something that pushes you. So purity is the force. By developing purity of heart, purity of mind, purity of thought, purity of desire, purity of the bodies, etc., then you can do almost anything in that state. And when I say almost anything, you can achieve almost anything by the mercy of Krishna. Okay? So we discussed this verse 266 and 18, 69 and 70, 68 and 69. First, to understand what Krishna wants us to do, and secondly, to understand how to have transcendental knowledge and a steady mind. A mind that's free of mental disease. Okay, so now we will continue to read. We read, in this world men are not meant for quarreling like cats and dogs, right? That's what you read, right?
Yeah. that is called our pure life. After that, the Supreme Lord and His transcendental abode are both Sanatana, as are the living entities, and the combined association of the Supreme Lord and the living entities in the Sanatana abode is the perfection of human life. The Lord is very kind to the living entities because they are His sons. Lord Krishna declares in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva yonis aham bija pradha pita. I am the father of all. Of course, there are all types of living entities according to their various karmas, but here the Lord claims that He is the father of all of them. Therefore, the Lord descends to reclaim all of these fallen, conditioned souls, to call them back to the Sanatana eternal sky, so that the Sanatana living entities may regain their eternal Sanatana positions in eternal association with the Lord. The Lord comes Himself in different incarnations, or He sends His confidential servants as sons, or His associates as or acharyas, to reclaim the conditioned souls.
Reclaim the conditioned souls. They're talking about us. We're all conditioned by lust, anger, and greed, the three modes of material nature. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Even Sattva Guna is a conditioning. We become conditioned to goodness. So, like for example, a person always is seeking to be honored for what they do. Therefore, they do a lot of good things. Are they doing those good things to please Krishna? Or are they doing it for their own self-esteem? Well, answer is for their own self-esteem. That means they're conditioned by the mode of goodness. Therefore, when Yudhishthira was asked to say, Asvatthama is dead, he refused to do it. Because he was conditioned to always tell the truth. But when Krishna asks you, then that's a different thing. Just like Krishna asked Arjuna to fight, Arjuna didn't want to fight. Why? Because he was attached to his family. Now, on the surface, if you hear Arjuna's excuses why he doesn't want to fight, they all sound good. They all sound moral, ethical, kind, good-hearted. Then why did Krishna reject him? Because his motive was no good, that's why. Just like people love their dog. So sometimes you see them, they let the dog eat on the dinner table with the family. The dog jumps up on the table and they say, oh, here, have something. And they give him a piece of meat or something. And the dog is eating, his tail is wagging back and forth real fast. And then sometimes the dog will come and they always have their tongue hanging out, so they start licking the face of his owner. And the person says, oh, look how much he loves him. But actually his dog is thinking, oh, one day I'll eat you also. They think it's love, but actually the dog is tasting the nice salty taste of the skin, thinking, oh, one day I'm going to eat him. He's a wild animal, right? He's an animal. Many times it's happened in the United States. The family leads the dog home with the baby. The dog kills the baby and eats it. You read, at least once a year something like that happens in America. Because they are carnivorous animals. You can't really trust them completely. People think they're like members of the family. How can they be members of the family? They're meat eaters. What kind of family is that? So, here it's very clear that Krishna is the seed-giving father of all living entities. And the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to revive Sanatana Dharma, so that all his children can come back to him. We're all his children. Krishna is our eternal Father. Some people say, oh, I'm an orphan, I don't have anybody in this world. That is another Maya. Feeling alone, feeling isolated, feeling victimized, feeling as if there's nobody for me in this world. But that's Maya. That's illusion. The most important person is for you, Krishna. He's our Father. He's giving us everything. He gives us Bhagavad Gita, he gives us holy saints, pure devotees that come into this world to convince us to revive Sanatan occupation. Right now, we're engaged in temporary activities. And the Lord wrote the Bhagavad Gita so that we become engaged in eternal activities. If we only engage in temporary activities, we will continue in material life, birth after birth. Okay, so you finished that paragraph?
Yeah, we can read.
Now let someone else read, somebody else. Anybody else?
Therefore, Sanatana Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. It is the eternal function of the eternal living entities in relationship with the eternal Supreme Lord.
So there's no such question of this is a particular religion like Christianity or Islam or Hinduism. Sanatana Dharma, as he says here, is the eternal function, the eternal activity or duty of the eternal living entities in relationship with the eternal Supreme Personality of Godhead. Go ahead.
Sanatana Dharma refers, as stated previously, to the eternal occupation of the living entity. Sripada Ramanujacharya has explained the word Sanatana as that which has neither beginning nor end. So when we speak of Sanatana Dharma, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripada Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end.
So if we look at it like that, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism, Confucianism, Taoism, Shintoism, we can go down the list, American Indian religion, they all have a beginning and end, therefore they are not what?
Eternal.
They're not Sanatana Dharma.
Sanatana Dharma.
Not one of those is Sanatana Dharma. Because they begin in time and they will end in time. Sanatana Dharma never had a beginning and never will have an end. So it's very important to understand what Sanatana Dharma is. Sanatana Dharma is not Hinduism. We should take that out of our mind. It's not Hinduism. It's not Arya Samajism. It's not, what do you call that? Hindu Swayam Sevakism. None of those things are not Sanatana Dharma. What is Sanatana Dharma? It's the eternal occupation of the living entity in relationship with the Supreme Eternal Personality of Godhead, the Lord Krishna. What is that occupation? Well, that's what's being explained here. That occupation is Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Madhyaji Mam Namaskuru Mam Ivaisesi Satyam Te Pratijane Priyosime. That is an explanation of Sanatana Dharma. Let's take a look at it. 18th chapter, 65th verse. Let's read the verse. 1865. Go ahead, somebody read.
Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend.
Purport.
The most confidential part of knowledge is that
Notice, the most confidential part of knowledge. So there is confidential knowledge, more confidential knowledge, and most confidential knowledge. This is the most confidential part of knowledge. Go ahead.
is that one should become a pure devotee of Krishna and always think of him, and ache for him. One should not become an official meditator. Life should be so modest that one will always have the chance to think of Krishna. One should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. He should arrange his life in such a way that throughout the 24 hours he cannot but think of Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode of Krishna, where he will be engaged in association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he is the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend to Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. These words state that one should concentrate his mind upon Krishna, the very form with two hands carrying a flute, the bluish boy with a beautiful face and peacock feather in his hair. There are descriptions of Krishna found in Brahma Samhita and other literatures. One should fix his mind on this original form of Godhead, Krishna. One should not divert his attention to the other forms of the Lord. The Lord has multi-forms as Vishnu, Narayana, Ram, Vara, Ek. But a devotee should concentrate his mind on the form that was present before Arjuna. Concentration of the mind on the form of Krishna constitutes the most confidential part of knowledge, and this is disclosed to Arjuna because Arjuna is the most dear friend of Krishna.
This is Sanatana Dharma. This is the exact description of what it is. It's concentration of the mind on Krishna, 24 hours a day. Now, can we do that today? No. You have to be honest. Can we do it? Yes, we can. We have to practice and pray and purify our heart. Yesam tvantakatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvandva mahanirmukta bhajante mam jitavata. One who has acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and who is completely free, or who's completely free of all karmic reactions, and who is always thinking of the Lord. The 7th chapter, 28th verse. Persons who acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So, how to become free of the dualities of delusion? It is not easy. Therefore, the Vedas give the Varnashram system, which in modern times is called Daiva Varnashrams. Daiva Varnashram means exactly what we're doing in the temple. All kinds of different people come in the temple, but everything in the temple is centered around pleasing Radha and Krishna. That's called Daiva Varnashram. So one person's an accountant, one person washes the dishes, one person drives the car, one person does internet work, one person does printing work, one person does teaching, another person does preaching, another person does book distribution, another person teaches how to make jewelry for the deities, another person is making flowers for the deities, another person is making clothing for the deities, another person is doing this, another person is doing that. That's called Daiva Varnashram. Whatever talents you have, regardless of what your background is, you come to the temple, you offer those talents in the service of the Lord. So that's God-centered Varnashram. And if one stays in that association, regularly hears and chants, and remembers the Lord throughout the day, and works honestly, and follows the path of duty and respect, then they will become a pure devotee in time. Not overnight, but in time. Then they come to the higher Dharma. And who's the best example of that? Srila Prabhupada himself. He went through all the ashrams. Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyas. And he attained that highest level, pure devotee. He was always a pure devotee, but he was exemplary in his behavior. He went through all the ashrams. So he's teaching us how to do it. It's not difficult. He had his own business. He went to college, graduated college, but he didn't take the degree. Right? Why he didn't take the degree? Because he was following Gandhi at that time, and he didn't want to cooperate with the British. So he finishes college, refuses to take the degree. So what's left for him? He can't become part of the British Indian administrative class, like become a district magistrate, like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right? Because he refused to take the degree. So he had to go into business for himself. That was the only other alternative. And he did. And he raised his 5 kids, and so forth, and then eventually took Vanaprastha, and eventually took sannyas. And then he preached Krishna consciousness all over the world. He came to a higher swadharma. Actually, when he stopped working, when his business basically went bankrupt, he kept his records for 7 years. When he was living in Vrindavan at the Radha Damodar temple, he had some boxes in which all his business records were kept. Because India Revenue Service, they can investigate you 7 years. Right? Prabhupada paid attention to every detail. He was very meticulous. He didn't try and cut any corners. He was very meticulous. And when he was a poor sannyasi in New York City, you can see his diary in which he keeps his finances. It's like, October 21st, 1967, he collected $1.39. It's there in his diary. And he spent 50 cents buying apples, 1 pound of apples to distribute as prasadam in his Wednesday evening class. It's got it all written down. It's the exact ledger. How much money he was getting in, how much money he was spending. Just to show you how meticulous he was, we fast forward now to 1973. He's building the temple in Vrindavan, and he's building a temple in Mayapur. So he has a meeting where he calls his managers to Mumbai, to Bombay. So the managers come from Mayapur, and he asks for 3 lakhs of rupees. Then the manager comes from Vrindavan, he asks for 2 or 3 lakhs of rupees also, to continue their construction. So Prabhupada refuses to give the money to the manager from Mayapur because he's not satisfied with the accounts. But the accounts from the manager from Vrindavan are good, so he agrees to give the money. So he writes a check and he hands it to him. But then he asks a question. He says, how much does it cost for the rickshaw to go from the Vrindavan temple to the Baroda State Bank office, which is in Lohi Bazar? So the devotee says, 1.5 rupees, Prabhupada. He said, okay, give me the check back. He said, why? He said, because it only costs 50 paisa to send this check by letter to the bank. To save that 1 rupee, he took the check back and then filled out the slip for for turning the check in, and sent it with a 50 paisa stamp to the Baroda Bank branch in Vrindavan, so that he could save 1 rupee. That's how precise he was. And he writes also in an interview, he spoke, this one person named Bob Cohen was working as a volunteer in India. So he met Prabhupada and he asked him a question about about handling of money in ISKCON. And Prabhupada said, many people will donate to our movement on the goodwill of Krishna consciousness. If a devotee accepts a donation and misspends even 1 paisa, he will go to hell. That's the exact quote. He'll go to hell. Right? So, this is how strict Prabhupada was. Not even 1 paisa should be wasted. That's why he was so successful, because he was a manager for Krishna. Now, if you manage for yourself, you're not as precise. But when you manage for Krishna, he gave the example of how precise we have to be, how exactingly precise. Okay, so persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion, and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So this means, in order to be engaged in Krishna's service, one must be completely free of all sinful actions. Now, there's a thing called the cycle of suffering. The Sanskrit, do you know what the cycle of suffering is?
Yeah.
These are the things that children are learning in our classes.
So it starts with avidya,
Which is what?
ignorance,
Yes.
and then you get bijam, which is desire to sin,
Yes.
and then that
P,
turns
P, P, P.
that
Starts with
turns
a P.
into papam, sinful action, and then that turns into aparada,
Aparabdha.
unmanifest
Which-
reaction.
Yeah, the sinful reaction is there for the sinful action.
Yeah. And
But
then
it's
it turns
unmanifest.
and it turns into prabda, manifest reaction,
Yes.
that leads to suffering, and then Gautam, sinful disposition, and then it starts again.
Yes. So in other words, the cycle of suffering begins from avidya. Avidya means you think something good is bad, and you think something bad is good. Just like some people think that smoking marijuana is good. They just made marijuana legal in Las Vegas, Nevada. 4 days after it became legal, there's an emergency in the state of Nevada. The stores are running out of marijuana, and there is no way to re-approvision them quickly enough unless the state legislature passes a special ordinance giving them permission to buy a huge new order of marijuana to re-approvision the stores.
Wow.
Just see how silly and stupid the American people are. Right? Anyway, you see, the problem of Kali Yuga is avidya. People think something bad is good and something good is bad. That's the definition of ignorance, real ignorance. So some people swear by meat. They say, oh, if I don't have meat, I'll starve to death. How can meat, a dead body, be food for a human being? Dead bodies are food for predator birds like vultures, for dogs, for insects. It's not food for a living being to eat a dead body. But yet, people eat dead bodies every day. It's normal. In fact, Indians eat dead bodies now. You go to Safeway down the street, you see what Indian people have in their shopping cart. They have meat, they have wine, they have beer, they have everything. They have cigarettes, they have everything that everybody else has. Right? Am I right or wrong?
Yes, sir.
So, therefore, they also have accepted what is bad is good and what is good is bad. Avidya. So when there's avidya, then one develops bijam, material desires. And when you have material desires, it leads to papam, sinful actions. And when there's papam, sinful actions, you get sinful reactions that at first are aparabdha, unseen. But later on, they become parabdha, seen. Unseen sinful reactions are like bad dreams and the mind dwelling on sense gratification and so forth. And then later on, the parabdha is chronic diseases, legal problems, financial problems, health problems. There's like 6 or 7 symptoms of parabdha, visible sinful reactions for sins that have been committed. And then when there's parabdha, there's suffering, dukkha. And then after all that, there's kutam, the sinful disposition for more suffering, for more ignorance. Disposition means you have a natural tendency to continue that cycle. How do you break that cycle of suffering? Yesam tvantagatam papam. Those persons who have acted piously in previous lives and in this life, 7th chapter, 28th verse, and whose sinful actions are completely eradicated. How are sinful actions completely eradicated? By devotional service, chanting, hearing, etc. One becomes purified completely by regular hearing like this and chanting in congregation together. Whose sinful reactions are completely eradicated, are freed from the dualities of delusion. One no longer says, oh, should I go to the movie or should I come to the class? Should I watch television or should I go to the RT? Should I do this or should I do that? That's called the duality of delusion. Whereas a devotee says, every day I'm going to Mangalarti. And I'll go to Sundararti also. Except those days when my team member forces me to work overtime. But I will be thinking at Sundararti about the deities, even though I'm at work. So you see that vrat, that determination to be regulated in devotional service and associate with good devotees means that your sinful reactions will be nullified or nullified in the bud before they become mature, before the aparabdha becomes parabdha. All the aparabdha sinful reactions will become nullified by acting in devotional service. That means you're changing your destiny. There's no way a person can change their destiny except by total immersion in Krishna consciousness. So this is explained by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita 1866. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam saranam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo moksisyami masuchaha. So he says, aham tvam sarva papebhyo. I will free you from all sinful reactions. Then masucha. You have nothing to fear, nothing to doubt, nothing to hesitate for. Or he says, karmani nirdahati kintu chabhakti bhajan. This is Brahma that speaks this. In the Brahma Samhita, he says that all your karma will be eradicated by the mercy of Krishna if you engage in service. So, the only way you can change your destiny means what's going to happen to you based on your previous karma, which you cannot change by any material method. You can't change it by going to the astrologer. You can't change it by going to the palm reader. You can't change it by going to some miracle puja man. No. But you can change it by Krishna consciousness. That is why I joined the movement, because I knew I had a very bad destiny due to being born in a meat-eating family and so forth. When I found out about Krishna consciousness, I realized, this is the solution to my problem. It can change everything. I did not find that anywhere else. I only found that in Krishna consciousness. I studied other religions, but when I read this Sarvadharma Parityaja, I realized what Krishna was saying. That he can erase your previous karma so that you're free to engage. Unless it's completely erased, according to 7:22, 28, you cannot even begin devotional service unless your previous karma is erased. And that can happen rather quickly by associating with devotees and chanting Hare Krishna and regularly hearing Bhagavad Gita and so forth. Okay. And in this purport it says, okay, we can read this purport, 7:28. Anybody else? One of the gentlemen want to read? 7:28. 7th chapter, 28th verse. Anybody?
Those eligible for elevation to the transcendental position are mentioned in this verse. For those who are sinful, aesthetic, foolish,
Atheistic, not aesthetic.
atheistic, foolish and deceitful, it is very difficult to transcend the duality of desire and hate. Only those who have passed their lives in practicing the regulative principles of religion, who have acted piously and who have conquered sinful reactions, can accept devotional service and gradually rise to the pure knowledge of Supreme Personality of God.
You notice it says gradually, doesn't say immediately, gradually. It's a slow process. Yeah. Then
gradually they
again
can,
he's saying gradually.
Then gradually they can meditate in trance on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the process of being situated on the spiritual platform. This elevation is possible in Krishna consciousness, in the association of pure devotees, for in the association of great devotees one can be delivered from delusions.
Delusion basically means you think something is right is wrong, and something wrong is right. And you're overwhelmed by duality. Should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know. You're like Arjuna, paralyzed. You can't act. Go ahead.
It is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.2.2 that
5.5.2.
Oh yeah, 5.5.2 that if one actually wants to be liberated, he must render service to the devotees.
Mahat sevam dwaram ahurmi mukte. That if you engage in Mahat sevam, serving the great Mahants, then dwaram, the door of liberation, dwaram ahur vimukti, is opened up for you. The door, the dwaram of liberation.
But one who associates with materialistic people is on the path leading to the darkest region of existence. Tamo dwaram
Yositam sangi sanga. So that says tamodwaram, the door leading to the darkest region of ignorance, is associating with people who are attached to sense gratification. Right? Let's go to Disneyland. Let's go to Las Vegas. Let's go to the movie. Let's go to the nightclub. Let's go eat in a lobster house. Being associated with those type of people means tamodwaram. They're opening the door to tamas for you. Okay?
All the devotees of the Lord traverse this earth just to recover the conditioned souls from their delusion.
Delusion again, acting in a deluded state of mind. Thinking something is not true is true. And chasing after it, as if that's the absolute truth.
The impersonalists do not know that forgetting this constitutional position,
Their constitution.
Their constitutional position as subordinate to the Supreme Lord is the greatest violation of God's law. Unless one is...
they're thinking we can become God by doing meditation.
Unless
No, that's not true. You can never become God. You can become the servant of God, but you can never become God. So they are deluded. They're crazy.
Unless one is reinstated in his own constitutional position, it is not possible to understand the Supreme Personality or to be fully engaged in his transcendental loving service with determination.
what is our constitutional position? Well, we read that 12th chapter, verses 6 to 7. Look at that again. Where it says, in pure devotional service, one comes to the realization that God is great and that the individual soul is subordinate to him. Never equal to him. Never becomes God. It's always subordinate. His duty is to render service to the Lord. That means we're the servant of the Lord eternally. And if he does not, then he will render service to Maya. So the Mayavadis are serving who? They're serving Maya. Mayavadi means one who worships Maya. What is Maya? I'm going to become Krishna. There's one idiot one time who was a devotee, but then I started going to Brahma Kumaris, and they had one pundit who he was just some big guy in Boeing, then he became a sort of pundit in Brahma Kumaris. Anyway, he was teaching them that worshipping deities, saying prayers, doing rituals, all this is for low-class neophytes in spiritual life. But when you come to the higher knowledge, then you give these things up and you take to meditation. Right. And he was telling me how, now he's above this deity worship. He came one day to the temple, he was telling me, your guru got it all wrong. Prabhupada got it all wrong. Now I have the higher knowledge. Right? And then it said, in the next Satya Yuga, I'll be dancing with the gopis. Such silly nonsense, right? I mean, it's so silly and pathetic. I just looked at him, in total disgust. I said, what has happened to you? You're completely in illusion. And it's a fact. It's completely an illusion. But see, how did he get into illusion? They're feeding his false ego. Why are we in this material world? Because we became jealous of Krishna. Why should Krishna dance with the gopis? Why can't I dance with the gopis? As soon as we started thinking like that, we fell down to the material world. Just like when Garuda saw Ram and Lakshman tied up, for 1 second he thought maybe they're not God. Because of that, according to Ramcharitmanas, Krishnadas, he had to sit down and listen to Kakukpusundi speak the Ramayana to purify his mind of that sinful 1 second thought. And who's Kakukpusundi? He's a crow, the lowest bird, right? And Garuda is the greatest bird. He had to sit down and listen to the crow, Kakukpusundi, speak the Ramayana to him, to purify his mind. So that was like 1 second he doubted that Lord Ramachandra is God. The Mayavadis, their whole life, they're preaching against the supremacy of Lord Krishna. Their whole life. Imagine what it will take to purify their mind. If Garuda, for 1 second, he had a doubt in his mind, and he had to hear the whole Ramayana spoken by a crow, that means the crow becomes his guru, and he becomes the shishya. Right? Even though he's a gigantic bird, and a crow is just some black thing like this. Right? But he has to subordinate himself to the crow to purify his mind. So what will it take the Mayavadi to purify the crazy concepts that they have? It's sad, very sad. And 95 to 98% of gurus that come from India are Mayavadis. That's the saddest thing of all. Okay, so we'll stop right there, and our homework will be to read what is the difference between Sanatana Dharma and non-Sanatana Dharma. What is Sanatana Dharma religion and what is a non-Sanatana religion? explain the difference using examples from the introduction.
I have a question, Prabhuji.
Yes.
You said Mayavadi Gurus, am I right?
What?
You said right now 97% of the people in India, Gurus, are Mayavadis.
Something
And-
like that, yes.
Yeah.
95, 98.
Yeah. So I do babysitting. I took care of the 2 kids, Prabhuji. They are really good. Mother itself is good. But she follows, I didn't know that 2 days, until 2 days, that she follows the Nityananda thing.
Yes.
But kids are so eager to listen Krishna Kathas, come to the temple, do one, they did each day when they came 2 days, they did 1 round each of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. They are so eager, Prabhuji. How to convince, because when I heard that, they're such a nice family, Prabhuji.
Mm-hmm.
But when I heard that they follow Nityananda, in my heart, I felt like 1 second sad. These such a kind of a nice people, how they turned into that witch or I don't know, that idiot, whatever that Nityananda. How do I convince them to take a path of Krishna, Prabhupada movement?
You convince them by taking good care of their kids and being a good person. Goodness prevails. Whoever is more truthful, more honest, more surrendered to Krishna, more kind, more compassionate, more loving, more affectionate, they prevail. They win the contest. They will eventually convince people by their behavior that they have something much more valuable and precious than anything else, because they have become a paradigm of purity and love and affection. So the question is, how did you get to be what you are? By chanting Hare Krishna, following Srila Prabhupada's instructions. If you're not a good person, if you're not an example of Krishna consciousness, you can't convince anybody. You can't even convince yourself. You have to actually follow strictly and be the example of what you want people to be. So you cannot, people will say, oh, this person's guru must be really good because they are really good. Right?
But we cannot judge like that. When I today in the Bhagavatam, when I am reading 10th canto, text is 5 to 7, Prabhuji. At the end of the purport, it says that between non-devotee or a devotee, anyone can go back to the Godhead. Full contest. I want to write it down and I want to share with you. But it doesn't matter. Non-devotee can also go back to Godhead by doing the sincere service.
But if a non-devotee does sincere service to Krishna, it means they're a devotee. If a non-devotee does sincere service, that means that person's a devotee.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You can't go back to Godhead by sincerely eating meat.
No. But when it comes
You
to
say, well, wait a minute, I'm honest. I don't tell any lies, and I eat meat. So I should go back to Godhead because I don't tell any lies. No. So what? You don't tell any lies. Doesn't mean anything. Okay, it's some semblance of a good person, but that's not genuine goodness. So, for example, in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it says,
non-devotee means who gave up, who follows 4 regulative principles, who gave up their all.
how can they be a non-devotee if they follow the regular?
Not initiated, not initiated.
Initiation is not simply a ceremony.
Yeah.
Initiation or acceptance of Guru means that you follow the Guru's instructions. Kadishye vachanam tava. Whatever you say, Krishna, whatever you say, the representative of Krishna, that's what I'm going to do. That's the real initiation. That you always double check what you're going to do with bona fide spiritual authorities. And as long as they're teaching according to Krishna's instructions and you follow that, whether you're initiated or not initiated, it doesn't really matter at that point. Initiation is a formal acceptance. What do you mean? Formal acceptance and a vow of acceptance, that you, out of duty, you will do certain things every day. Come rain or shine, hell or high water, as they say in English. Come hell or high water, you're going to do it. But you can do it even without being initiated, as long as you follow the instructions of bona fide devotees. But part of the instruction is acharya pasamam. You must accept Guru at some point, formally. But you can accept informally and strictly follow. That means you still have a Guru. But then that informal acceptance should become formal at some point. Like Prabhupada met his Guru in 1922, but he didn't take initiation until 1933. But in that interim period between 1922 and 1933, he had accepted Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj in his heart as his Guru. And he was following. So, yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat yakinchana